I'm going to show you how to use Google Sheets to plot multiple timelines on one graph. This is data that we collected in the hallway. These were the positions of students along the hallway. These were the times that I passed each student in the first trial. These were the times that I passed each student in the second trial, and these are the times where I passed each student in the final trial. Now, since what we really measured was the independent variable of position and the dependent variable of time, that would seem like we want to put x on the horizontal axis of our graph and time on the vertical. However, in physics, sometimes we put things on axes where the outcome is the most meaningful. So we are going to put time on the horizontal axis and position on the vertical axis. But if I just do that by trying to graph directly, we want a scatter plot. So we'd come up here, change the chart type to scatter, and the x-axis that we want is time, and the vertical axis that we want is position. So if we were to label these, we could put our axis title as time in seconds, and our vertical as position in meters. This is what we'd want for the first series, although we need to change the title still. The problem comes when we try to graph more than one series at the same time. So you could drag over all of them and say that you want a scatter chart. Change this to scatter. But the problem is it wants them to have a shared x-axis. We want time on the x-axis, but we can only select one time axis. So this is not going to give us the type of graph that we want. So what are we going to do? There's a trick that we can do. Now, the first thing I'm going to do is just delete this column so that the work you do is not exactly the same as what I'm showing here. You have to think about it a little bit more. So here's the trick. For our first data set, we're going to move the position axis over here. So what I'm doing is selecting it, and then I'm going to cut it, and then I'm going to paste it over here. Now, we don't really need this column anymore, so we can right-click and just delete it. Okay, so now we have time and position, and if I were to press Control and graph these two and insert a chart and make it a scatter chart, I do have time on the horizontal and position on the vertical. But I still have the same problem that I had a moment ago. If I try to select all of these at once, then I will still have just time 1 on the horizontal and then time 3 on the vertical, and that doesn't make any sense at all. So what we're going to do is take all of that data, and I'm going to cut, and I'm going to paste it underneath. Okay? I'm going to get rid of this column altogether, and I'm going to relabel this as time in seconds, and this is going to be our position in meters. Here is the trick. I'm going to select all those position values. I'm going to copy them, and notice here the time starts over. This is our new series. So I'm going to put it here and paste it. So now I have one collection of time values and the position that goes with it. And down here, I have a new set of time values with those positions associated with it. There are no values in this first column for trial 3, and there are no values in this column for trial 1. So now, when I select all of it, and I insert a chart, and I'm going to make it a scatter chart, then I get my first series, which is the blue ones, and I get my third series, which is the red ones. Now, we still want to change the x-axis to, say, time in seconds, and the vertical one we want to change to position in meters. But I'm going to show you two more things to do on this graph first. So the first thing I want you to do is to create a trend line. And the way you do that is when you click on the graph, click Customize, go to Series, and down towards the bottom in Series, you can add a trend line. Now notice this is making a line of best fit through these data points. If we turn on Use Equation and R squared, we now have an equation that relates the time on the horizontal axis to the position on the vertical axis. The slope of that line is something that's important. There's one more thing I want to show you though, is because in trial 3, it looks like we have a bit of a change in angle there. And so I'm going to delete this graph for now. Actually, let's bring it back for a second. Notice that the elbow of this angle is at 7. So what I want to do is divide our trial 3 data into two pieces. One that goes from the beginning up to 7 meters, and one that goes from that point forward. So I'm going to move this into column 3. I'm going to put 7 so that it's on both sets. And now I'm going to graph all of it again. So I'm going to make it a scatter chart. And time is going to be on the horizontal axis. And then we have those 3 position series. So now I can click on Customize, I can click on Series, I can come down and turn on the trend line for the first for all 3 series. I can say Use Equation, and we can turn on R squared. And now these are telling us the equations for each of these 3 series. Therefore, they have 3 slopes. And I say 3 series, the red and the orange together are both the same trial, but there's a different velocity in the first half of it compared to the second half. And that's the information that we can see on these. So we still need to change the chart title to something meaningful about the experiment. We change the horizontal axis to what's on the horizontal axis, so measurement with units. And the vertical axis is going to be that measurement with units. Now, if you do that for trial 2 as well, you'll notice trial 2 is pretty different. It will be coming down this way, starting in the upper left, going down towards the bottom right, and that has implications for the line of best fit.